Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Sound Advice Podcast. I am your host, Gino Medina. I must say it is good to be back. For those of you who subscribe to the channel and check us out regularly, you know we've been MIA for a little bit, and that is largely due to the fact that a lot of places around here have been opening back up. And as a result, our gig schedule has gotten quite crowded. So we've had to make a few adjustments and changes with our schedule. And we're going to try and do that in a fashion that permits us to bring content like this to you on a regular basis, on a much more consistent basis, rather, so that none of us are missing out. As you know, this channel is made by working musicians for working musicians just like you, with the goal of keeping all of us busy. So stick around. Today we're going to talk about a few survival tips on how to keep your head above water in this crazy industry we've chosen. And this is even post-pandemic. So if your gigs are picking up and your money's looking good, your schedule looks like it's pretty occupied, that's a good thing. Now let's figure out how we can keep it all together. So stick around. We'll be back right after this, and we'll get going. See you in just a bit. Okay, and we're back. And I'm going to make a very huge assumption here in just a second. But before I do, if you guys like the content on this channel and you like what we're doing here, please click the little subscribe button and the notification bell. That way when we got a new video coming down the pike, we can let you know right away and you won't miss a thing. So your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you in advance for doing that. And here's my big reveal. Here's my humongous assumption. I'm going to go on a limb and say that 2020 was probably the most challenging and difficult year to be a gigging musician in the United States. Agree? Disagree? Leave a comment below. Let me know if you agree or not, and let me know why you do or don't. I think it sucked because so many of us lost so many gigs due to the pandemic. And then, when things started to pick up in the summer, it was with great apprehension. You know, we didn't go full throttle. Some states did, but it was a very delicate dance. And then things got shut down again. So it was always like wondering where the next meal was going to come from in some respects, you know, because you'd have all these gigs on the books and then you don't know which ones are going to hold and which ones are going to get, going to get canceled. It was really hard to know. So it was a constant guessing game. During that time, of course, we started the channel here. We started the podcast. And we spoke with some musicians who were in very unique positions. We spoke with several musicians who tour with national and international acts. And they had all found other ways, creative ways, to keep their revenue streams flowing. We've had some of our guests who went back to teaching their instrument to students, obviously. Teaching, who else are they going to teach, right? So, and we found some of them taking jobs as musical directors for certain organizations. Some of our guests decided to do production work, mixing, engineering, production work. One scored a documentary, scored the soundtrack for a documentary even. So there are ways to keep busy even when gigs are not on the books. So I'm curious to know how some of you survived the pandemic, monetarily speaking. What were some of your strategies? How did you do that? So if you just drop us a comment, let us know. I'd be interested to know how you do that, and maybe we can share your story. Maybe we can get you on the podcast, and you could be a guest based on your story. So let us know how you did that. From a personal standpoint, when the shutdown first hit, I lost a lot of gigs with one band in particular that I worked with out of Kansas. And I lost a few with another band that I worked with out of Texas. I was able to get some sort of compensation through the CARES Act. And then, of course, I think a lot of us were beneficiaries of the stimulus package. I hope some of you were. I hope all of you were. And so that helped to offset some of those potential earnings. But to sustain yourselves, you got to have a steady stream. So I found myself resorting to more conventional means, like actually working a 9-to-5 gig, which was helpful. It would not have been my first choice. I would rather have done something artistic, but we do what we need to do to survive. So now that things are opening back up and my calendar's getting a little more, conventional looking, I think I'll be okay in that department. So that's where that is. But there are some other tips that I think we could follow to help navigate and survive this crazy industry that we've chosen as working musicians. So I'm going to leave you with about 9 little tips, courtesy of iCadenza.com, what you can do to help navigate this crazy industry we've chosen. So what does it really take? Well, talent, obviously, it would help. If you want to be in this industry and you want to be a badass artist, it'd be good to have some talent. It's not enough though. You got to do the work too. One of the things that is suggested on iCadenza.com is to take action and responsibility for your success. They state that artists who succeed are the ones who see it as their job to create the career they want. There's a lot of things that go on in the industry that are well beyond our control, like whether or not you get booked or pass an audition, things like this. But a lot of artists focus on their lack of control in any given situation. But if you're looking for empowerment and anonymity, then you'll be poised to succeed. If you take action, you'll get results. Without action, there's no results. And that comes directly from the website. So that's one tip. Another tip is to maintain your sense of humor. I don't think they necessarily mean bar band humor, like when you banter on stage, talking about stupid shit on stage between songs, drinking a beer, and making bad dad jokes. I don't think that's the kind of thing they're speaking here on iCadenza. But I will read from the iCadenza website. It says, keep a light heart, especially when it comes to mistakes that you're bound to make because mistakes are inevitable. Now, that's a hard thing for some of us creative types to live with. We're very sensitive souls. A lot of us deal with imposter syndrome, so when we make a mistake, it seems magnified to us. The advice here is to just, maintain your sense of humor and try not to get too bogged down. Have a little compassion for yourself. When you do make a mistake, we all mess up, and it's our response to those mistakes that really matters. It's how we deal with it. Try to be responsive to those mistakes and not reactionary, I think, is the takeaway there. So that's number 2. All right, tip number 3. Respond to your emails. As part of a management company, some people are surprised at how unresponsive other artists can be. Now, when I had a corporate band in Atlanta, and prior to every show, I would send my emails with show details, where to be, what time to be there, what you're wearing, songs, we're going to play, the whole 9 yards. Send it out to 9-piece band, and the requirement was that they all get back to me via email, so that I knew that they saw the details and knew what was expected of them on the upcoming gig. The musicians who did not respond were usually the musicians who did not stick around the longest. It's best to be communicative, especially where your career is concerned. So, if you are trying to get out there and succeed and you are sending emails to booking agents, management, clubs, other musicians, if they write you back, respond to them. Let them know you're listening. That will go a long, long way. And don't just do it when you feel like it. Try and be prompt and do it in a timely fashion. Communication definitely is key. So there is that. The next point I'd like to bring up to you, I think we're on point number 4, if I'm not mistaken. Don't take anything personally. Again, it's a crazy industry and people do crazy things, and you might feel like you're unjustly dismissed or maybe even disrespected. But, some industry leaders behave like this is a life or death industry, according to iCadenza, and admittedly, it is not a life or death industry. Your career may be life or death to you, but, people behave the way they do, and some people aren't very tactful, some people are rude, some people just aren't into what you're doing musically, they have different tastes or whatever. So if you're getting feedback or, if you're submitting songs for licensing or anything like that, if you get a hard no, trust me, that is a lot better than not hearing anything at all. So if you get a hard no, at least you know where you stand. Don't take that personally, though. It doesn't necessarily mean that your music's not good. It might just mean that your song selection isn't right for that particular outing, whatever that might have been. So don't take the rejections personally, okay? You'll last a lot longer in the industry if you don't. Another thing you want to do, and this actually was brought up by Matt Maxwell, who is the touring bassist for Lauren Elena, who Matt was on the podcast earlier. Always be learning. If you always want to try to improve yourself, whether it's artistically or if it's your business acumen, you always want to be learning. So accept the fact that you are a work in progress and that there is always more to learn. And again, that is almost exactly word for word from iCadenza.com. Again, I'll put the links up for you so you can see these tips. I think they're amazingly helpful. And some of them are so basic, I think even a seasoned people forget to remember these things. So always be learning, whether it's your instrument itself or again, the business side of things. Just always be learning. All right, next tip is to release your perfectionism. Now, release in this sense doesn't mean bring out and be a perfectionist. It means to let go of the idea of a perfect performance, I think. Babyface, the producer who's produced acts like Whitney Houston, Boyz II Men, The Whispers, Pebbles, After Seven. I mean, the list is so incredibly long, it's ridiculous. He would prefer to capture a heartfelt, moving performance from a vocalist than a pitch perfect, technically well executed vocal performance, because the feel was much more important to him. And I think that's the point here. If you're performing, you want to give the best show you can, but you don't have to execute perfectly. You just want the energy there. You want the performance to be well thought out. I mean, granted, you don't want to go out and make mistake after mistake after mistake. You don't want to get made fun of like some of these artists do on YouTube when they have a bad night, but you don't have to be perfect. It's another way we beat ourselves up. If we don't give the show that we thought we should have done, then we tend to be a little hard on ourselves. So that takes us back to the other rule. But anyway, for this particular point, release the perfectionism. It's good to get things done sometimes. And again, they don't have to be perfect. I've even experienced this on my own recording sessions. I recorded a song called Another Human with a former band of mine called Hard Left. And you can hear this on Spotify if you dig it or dig for it. But we wrote this song called Another Human, and I played a reference guitar solo when we were demoing the song. And when it came time to clean up the tracks, I re-recorded the guitar solo and executed it on a technical level much better than I did during the demo stage. But it did not have the energy or the feel that the first take had. So we just kept the original guitar solo with mistakes and all, and it is a much better performance in terms of the feel and the vibe. So, letting go of that idea of perfectionism for a great energetic take in that respect was a really good move on our part, I think. And again, you can go to Spotify and listen to that if you decide to. So anyway, that's that. So let's move on to the next tip. Nurture your relationships. Now, one of the things we hear on this podcast from every single guest is that networking with other musicians is so important, and always being respectful and nice, because you never know who's watching or how that one contact could open the door for an entire career, which was the case with Tasia Veal, who plays bass for Janelle Monáe. You can go back and listen to her podcast, and she'll tell you the story. It's pretty remarkable. And I think it was one of her first times out once she moved to Atlanta to establish herself as a musician. So she got a really big break like that. So nurturing your relationships and nurturing your network, rather. And iCadenza says it this way. No one can make it in this industry alone. You need people on your side to support you and collaborate with you. Understand that people come in and out of your life in different ways, so take a long-term approach to relationship building and relate to people in the right way. That's pretty simple to me and pretty concise. So just take care of your contacts and nurture them and foster good relationships. I think that's the point there. Now, the next point that iCadenza brings up that I want to share with you is something that you probably already do, but I want you to think about it consciously, and so I'm going to say it out loud. Believe in what you do. Maintain a deep belief and passion for the work that you're doing. If you're feeling stuck and lost in your career, think about your mission and think about the work that's most important to you. Keep focusing on why you're doing what you're doing, and it will help you overcome resistance. Again, as a songwriter or a performing musician or a producer or an engineer, whatever your career path is as a working musician, I think if you set up that plan, take your big picture 5-year plan, break it down into smaller increments, and then work that plan, then you're taking a very tactical approach in achieving your goals in your career. And clearly, you wouldn't be doing that if you didn't have enough faith or belief in what you were doing. At some point, and I can't remember who it was, but I want to say it was my cousin Mario. I get a lot of tidbits of, a lot of nuggets of information from Mario. He's a great resource for me. I believe it was him who said that if I had a plan B, then I wouldn't succeed at plan A. Now, that's not for everybody. But I think his point was that as a musician, if I believed enough in what I was doing, then I wouldn't give myself any other choice but to succeed. And hearing it that way gave me a greater belief in what I was doing musically and made me believe I could do it more so than I thought I could prior to hearing him say that. So believe in what you do, put your plan together, and execute your plan. All right, and now for the final tip brought to us from iCadenza.com, take care of your bodies. Now, a lot of us probably just go out for the weekend to do a couple bar shows or a wedding show or, things of that effect. A lot of us probably aren't out there on tour for 30 days at a time. However, that being said, if you take care of your body, keep yourself in shape, diet, exercise, you'll feel better. And when you feel better, you can perform better. Some of you may be aware of this, but there are bands, like famous bands, and these guys are in their 60s and 70s. Guys like Kiss, REO Speedwagon, these bands that are still touring. Motley Crue is going back out on the road again. I think if you're going to give a really, really good show, especially on that level, you have to be in good shape. So you got to get your head right. You got to get your body in shape. You got to get your cardiovascular system and everything tuned up so you can handle the rigors of the road. And when you feel better, like I said, when you feel better, you perform better. So those are some of the tips offered to us from iCadenza.com. I'm happy to share them with you. If any of you have any additional tips you want to add, please feel free to comment below. If you disagree with any of the information here, feel free to do the same. All I ask is that you keep your responses respectful, and I will be happy to answer any and all comments that I can personally. So, coming up on future episodes of the Sound Advice podcast, we are going to start our management series where we talk with managers who help navigate the careers of working musicians and see how that side of the business works. We've also got a few other surprises up our sleeves, and we are going to try and get some merchandise available to you soon as well. T-shirts, mugs, and stuff like that. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. Again, click subscribe and hit the little notification bell. We'll let you know what's going on. And until next time, I'm Gino Medina, and we'll hear you next time on the Sound Advice Podcast.